At some point, the town will say no. Or not.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll open the meeting with a moment of silence. And at this time, please remember the family of Christopher Roy, the firefighter from Worcester. I'd like to announce that the meeting is being recorded and televised by the local cable company. I'd like a motion to approve bill and payroll warrants.
So moved?
Second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion to accept correspondence in the read file.
So moved?
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Public forum. Now's the time for anyone here who would like to speak about anything that's not on the agenda. Approval of meeting minutes, open session, October 23rd, 2018.
So moved?
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
And open session, the minutes of open session, November 20th, 2018.
So moved?
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Chairman's report will be short. Went to the school committee meeting last week, and at the beginning of the meeting, they had a budget discussion. And I have to say that the superintendent clearly has his heart and his head in the right place at the same time. He informed us of the state at this stage of the game of the budget deliberations of the school committee, and it's early because they have to wait for find out how much funding they have from Chapter 70, etc. He gave us a deadline, approximate time of sometime in March when they would probably know. But he said that, he gave us an idea in each category how much money they thought they needed for this year for a level service budget. Totally open, totally transparent, answered any questions, is willing to talk to anybody in his office, having coffee, or whatever. I was really impressed with the superintendent's attitude around the whole issue. He knows that what they want to come up with is a budget that will somehow satisfy everyone. But probably an impossible task, but that's his goal, which is a good goal to have. What I was also impressed with was he said that at every school committee meeting from now on, the very first item on the agenda will be a budget discussion, at which point he'd entertain questions or he'd give us progress reports. And he said that it would happen at the beginning of every meeting so that people who were interested in the school budget would not have to wait through the rest of the meeting to have the discussion. So he's going out of his way, I think, to do what he can do. And I was just pleased by the attitude of both the superintendent and the school committee at that meeting. Do you have anything to add, Randy? You were there too.
I think it was by far one of the most detailed budgets we've seen so far in this early from the school, and things look hopeful, and I think Mr. Simonak and Mr. Farrell are going to be on board with working with the town to produce something sustainable.
I think they're going to, there's no doubt that they're going to try. Yeah. Town administrator's report?
This will ultimately tie in with the budget, but I'd like to pass these reports out. They show you what our fund balances are, what our recap will look like within the levy limit. Don't be too concerned about the 26.6. We also add the local receipts to that.
We need one more sheet of the fund balances, right?
Yep, sorry. So these are informational pieces, and I'd also like to hand this out because this is a model that we are working on right now to provide a format for reporting revenue and appropriations. The accountant is currently backfilling the data that will be helpful to us from a historic reference, and will be the first part of what we hope will be a more clear and transparent budget publication for people to look at and understand. This is actually plagiarized from Brookline. I had the opportunity to attend a Capitol conference up in Stowe a week ago last Friday, and Sean Cronin is the Assistant Director of A&F, was kind enough to share this information. So ours will look a little bit different and certainly much smaller numbers, but we'll be doing it in thousands instead of millions. But it's a good start for us to help understand the process.
So this is Brookline.
Yes.
The category collective bargaining, town and school, does that refer to, what exactly does it refer to? How
What
much
they
it
do
costs?
is they actually reserve money in their budget to be utilized in the event that contracts are settled
Okay,
mid-year. It's a trend that many towns are going to. They're actually creating a line item that provides for sufficient funds, broad-based, to bargain with, so it's not as if you're telling people in advance, this is all you're going to get. But it will be helpful. And then finally, and this is a very rough draft, because every single time I started working on this, something more critical came up. But
There is nothing more critical.
tell me about it. This is actually what would be a level-funded budget with only the collective bargaining adjustments to line salaries. It won't work because it also level funds the two schools other than Whitman Hanson, and it level funds other items that ultimately we know can't be level funded. But it gives us a start. I'm going to fine tune that and prepare a budget based on, one, what we're committed to do right now, and based on what it would look like if we negotiated things differently.
could you define level funded, do you mean level service?
No, I mean level funding,
Level fund-
with the exception of a few lines that have the contracted step raises in them.
Which is a big difference in level service.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I had talked to Randy last week about that and said I would try and put this together for this meeting, but everyone plotted against me.
Best laid plan, but
Does anyone have any responses to it now, or obviously?
I spent today reading 43-page contracts.
I have one question, and I know you probably answered it before, but are we taxing to the max?
No, this came up in the Finance Committee meeting a couple of weeks ago. When we set the tax rate, well, let me go back. When we determine how we're going to tax people, that is the classification, whether we'll have one unified tax rate or separate rates for commercial and residential, the assessors prepare an analysis. In order to prepare that analysis, they have to finalize the numbers that will be associated with the tax rate. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen until mid-October or later. And the first time we get to see what our excess levy or taxing to the max is within a couple of days of that hearing. Now, if we choose, and certainly knowing what we have in front of us, if I had the opportunity to recommend that we tax to the levy limit, it would have been for the purpose of placing money in the capital stabilization account. But this,
So if the numbers don't come out right,
Right.
That's the one place that we wouldn't.
Exactly. So when we set the tax rate this year, we had a surplus or excess levy of, if memory serves me right, $340,000. Now, in order to utilize that, we have to have a town meeting. We have to know the numbers are there. We have to schedule a town meeting and do all of this in order to get a tax rate certified in December so we can send the tax bills out in January. And because we don't have that information, we generally can't do it. So each year, we do our best to identify what we think the levy limit will be, but what's unknown in there is what revenues we may receive from fees and charges that we didn't anticipate, from tax title redemptions, which go into free cash, and the final assessment of all the property in Whitman that's taxable. And that all happens when they do the recap sheet and calculate the levy. So, short answer, no, but we're close.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Frank, I have a question. And looking at the revenues, fund balance, what's coming in, is, should we start looking at what we're charging for fees as far as,
That's on the agenda for one department tonight.
good, okay? And also, quite curious, looking at the ambulance fee revenues, 547, is that about where we usually just standing, chief, as far as ambulance funding?
What do you have for number?
No, that's the number now.
That's the number now, right? I mean, usually at the end of the year, we're around 700?
No, we're high right now. We're at 583 right now.
Okay,
We're high only because we carry over $100 and some odd thousand into this fiscal year. We project to be somewhere between 850 and 900.
good.
I agree.
And then I'm looking at the motor vehicle fine account. It's kind of, a little under 18.
We anticipate there'll be enough in that account to fund the
Good.
existing leases.
Right, because usually we get the cruisers out of that.
Well, we haven't been able to the last
Yeah.
couple of years.
Oh.
And there's another number in there that is interesting, and that's the sale of real estate. Over a number of years, we've accumulated $320,000 from real estate sales. And the regulations regarding how to use that money vary depending on what type of real estate was sold. If it was a tax title, if it was a low-value taking, if it was a foreclosure adjudicated by land court. And I've gone back and forth with our previous accountant and with the Department of Revenue at least 3 or 4 times, and their answers are always as clear as mud. So I went to council last month. I sent them everything we had, and I said, I want a simple answer. Can we spend this money, and how can we spend it? Well, lo and behold, an IGR came out last year that addresses that. So that money cannot be appropriated, but will be included in our next round of free cash.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay.
So that would bring us up to like $1.4 million.
Assuming everything else is relative, yeah.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is the budget review, Scott. Before you go, Scott, I forgot to mention that the next school committee meeting, at which there'll be a budget discussion at the beginning, is on the 16th of January, Wednesday the 16th. Shoot.
Well, when last we talked, we were going to schedule another, a meeting of the committee. We were waiting, we didn't expect, at that time, we thought we wouldn't see the numbers coming from the school until January. But lo and behold, I guess you have them.
Well, we have first draft numbers.
First draft, so.
And they're pretty startling.
Yeah, so I think it would be in our best interest to schedule something, and maybe You know, we've typically, I think in the past, we had them before our meetings, but maybe
Right.
we should have one over there.
Sure.
Prior to the meeting on the 16th, if they're willing to host, and if Jeff
Right.
is available.
We can work that out. You know, the numbers that were presented last Wednesday are very preliminary. They're not numbers etched in stone, as they've been very clear to say. But what they do reflect is a $2.9 million increase in operational costs. And unfortunately, unless something weird happens with Chapter 70, all but 100,000 of that falls on the shoulders of the two towns. So it's going to take a lot of fine tuning and analysis.
That's based on a level service budget.
Level service
2.9,
budget,
right.
yep.
And additionally, I think it, you know, as we go forward, and I don't know when the right time will be, but I do think we do want to have another joint meeting, certainly with the Finance Committee, but maybe with the Finance Committee and the School Committee, as their numbers are getting more and more refined.
Perhaps in the second meeting in January would be a good time for that.
I think it would be a good idea.
Anybody have any questions, response? We have an update we have some communication from Dr. Tarsi.
Yes, we do. I have it right here on my phone. As of today, I received an email from Dr. Tarsi that indicates we have had 610 online responses, 368 paper responses, for a total of 978, which is a response rate of approximately 18%. We have asked, or I have asked, Dr. Tarsi to see if we can complete this analysis at least by the middle of January, so by the end of January, we'd actually have a report. And she is attuned to that, feels
She
that
felt
is
that could
attainable.
happen. Right. And that's a encouraging response,
It
18%.
sure is.
It's amazing.
It's more than I thought it would be, honestly.
Didn't she say around 10% is an average?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So clearly, people are looking at this. I mean, I've had calls from two different addresses that contain multiple houses, multiple residents, both asking why they haven't received their survey yet. And I did report that to Dr. Tarsi. As it turns out, I went home that night and that survey was in my mailbox. So it took time to get all of those out. But I also gave each of those people the
The link.
link to go online and take the survey.
Okay, liaison reports, Bob Carr, in order to maintain 602 Bedford Street. I have no idea.
Just stuff
That
them in
one
there.
slipped right by me.
Good evening, how are you?
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Should I start with a quick analysis or summary of what happened?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Decor Novelties owns 602 Bedford Street. Unfortunately, Decor Novelties only had one stockholder. He died 12 years ago. There was a tenant in the building up until June. The tenant was paying the taxes each year and occupying the property. And at the end of June, they decided to leave. They literally came by, left us a handwritten note and 3 keys to the building. We have no ownership rights to the building. It's a large building, it's 44,000?
42,000?
42,000 square feet. It's predominantly masonry and steel, and it was used as a print shop for years. It's also contaminated. And DEP, the records aren't even online, they're so old for it. But all of the heirs to the owner just said we want nothing to do with it. So right now, we have this building sitting there. The electricity is on, the heat is off, and it's sprinkled. So Bob was asked to do a assessment.
Yeah, when I was notified that the building was abandoned, I asked Frank to help get me inside the building. He had a key to it. That was done on November 2nd. As a result, we had determined that the sprinkler system was active, the water is on in the building, there is no heat. There wasn't an immediate threat because there was no freezing temperatures. We sent out a notice to an attorney that had some kind of an association with the deceased owner, hoping that that would flesh somebody out that would help us do something to this building to protect it. Nothing happened. We didn't hear back at all. Then on December 10th, I conducted an inspection. Actually, it was December 5th. We conducted an inspection in accordance with Chapter 143, Section 8, where we had myself, the head of the fire department, or his delegate. We had a disinterested party. We had an engineer, and we all toured the building. The building is empty. It's broom clean. It's in fairly decent shape. The sprinkler system is on, and if we don't do something, the sprinkler system will fail. I feel, as the building official and anything to do with public safety, I do not recommend shutting down a sprinkler system in a building for any reason at all. Therefore, in accordance with Chapter 116 of the Building Code, I feel as though we should do something to protect that building. That would include to either supply heat to it, or winterize the sprinkler system, or turn the existing sprinkler system into an dry system. Unfortunately, it may get expensive, and we don't have any funds in my budget to do anything with this building. My recommendation at this point is to maybe provide heat to the building and keep it at a low temperature. That would prevent the sprinkler system from freezing and keeping the electricity energized to provide fire alarm notification in the event of a fire or sprinkler activation. So
Has anybody ever seen what a heating bill costs for 42,000 square foot for this building?
We don't even know whether the heat works. It's been shut off.
the issue
And the
is
gas
the town has no authority or no money to spend on this building. However,
Actually, yeah.
in the interest of
Can't
public
spend money on
safety, we have an issue.
How about we put a big red X on it? You guys stay out of there when it does catch on fire.
So we have involved town council in this process for an analysis. There are two issues. One, we cannot deficit spend to provide for the building, and the statute that allows for deficit spending would not apply to this based on the opinion of council. We also have the issue of whether or not we can use municipal funds on a property not owned by the town. In the past, if we had a hazardous property, we could get an order from the court, we could make it safe, and then add the cost to the tax bill, and we get paid. And in the two cases we've done that, we did get paid. We got paid on South Ave, and we got paid on Park Ave. In this case, I have no expectation of ever being paid, because I know we don't want the building, and the heirs have already said they don't. And until the level of contamination can be determined, I don't know that anybody wants to touch it.
I did look this building up online, and you can find it through Mass DEP. It's about 4,000 pages going back to March of 1986, where in 1995, estimated cleanup was about $400,000. Chlorinated solvents, PCBs, metals, oil and gas. It's slightly shy of being a Superfund site. I don't even know why the town would remotely involve ourselves with that piece of property. Worst case scenario is the sprinkler system freezes next week. In the spring it thaws, it bursts. Fire department goes up there, they shut the water down, they mark it with the red X. Exterior operations only, and the building sits there for 20 years. There's also a case manager from the DEP, I believe her name is Catherine Cavallo. prior to doing anything to that building, I would say we have her come in here and make sure that we do not have any liability by the time we go in there and all of a sudden we start supplying heat, electricity, changing over the sprinkler system, because there are some records online where actually abutters were affected and signed a third-party orders that they would not sue for contaminated wells back in about 2000. This is not a road this town wants to remotely go down, and until I would be 100% sure that we have zero liability on this site, I would say stay out of it.
I agree with everything you say, but where did you find that?
Good
So
job.
taxes are paid
Mass DEP.
on this?
The issue I have is that I have a responsibility under the building code to see that that building is secure and safe.
But is it secure? I mean,
It
is
is-
there windows
it-
blocked up?
No,
Need to be blocked up?
it's not. So that's the issue here is, and I have had discussions with the fire chief, and he said, rather than shut this sprinkler system down by turning a gate at the street, let's let it freeze, and then we have no choice.
Well, then you have less liability.
The issue is that do we have the responsibility or to go in there and turn on the heat, exactly as you said, Randy? Or we're certainly not going to be shutting the water off to it, not unless there's something freezes and there's an activation. So the issue here is that I have a responsibility to see that this building is in accordance with the law.
Is there power to the building?
There's electricity right now.
And how is it heated?
It's heated, it's gas heat, and then it's 2 meters on the right-hand side of the building, and they're locked out.
So they didn't pay that.
We have no information that the heating systems even work.
Well, apparently, the state actually had a lien against Decor Images for failure to pay back in 2000 to the state.
Problem solved.
I have got emails from all the parties present in this inspection. The recommendations from everybody was to do something to protect the building the best we can.
By
And
protecting the building, are we protecting the town from liability?
I think if we go in there and we take action and shut the sprinklers off, that's a liability to the town. If we let it freeze, there's really no liability other than we need to go in there and shut it off and put the red X on the building.
I have a question.
Brian? Yeah.
Frank, can we declare that building? I see no point in, going and letting it freeze and do damage, and the pipes break and do damage to the building and then shut the water off. That's like, locking up closing the barn door when the horse is already gone.
But we don't own the building.
Can we declare that building as an attractive nuisance because of that and be able to legally get a court order to shut the water off, drain the system so it will not freeze and damage the building?
The authority with that it lies in the fire chief, and that's according to Chapter 27, 148, Chapter 27A. He can order this. The issue here is that public safety doesn't want to shut that off. Under any circumstances, do I want to see that shut off?
Well, you're afraid that it'll catch on fire and we won't know about
The
it.
issue is in the past, there's been great mistakes made by shutting a sprinkler system off and then something happens. And it has cost lives in the past, and we've learned from that. So the fire chief's theory of let it freeze and we'll shut it off because we have to, that makes a lot of sense, but and I get what you're saying is it just
I don't
doesn't
think it makes
seem-
any sense at all.
Yeah, and it's a tough decision to make,
Yeah.
to go down there and turn those 2 valves that supply water to a sprinkler system.
Yeah, but then you gotta drain it, right? You gotta drain
Well,
the water.
there
that's
is
in it.
other options for, I did talk to sprinkler companies. There's a way you can make the system dry there, but do we have the authority to, without a court order, we have no authority at
Don't
all.
have any money.
It may be moot because we don't have the money or the
Plus,
authority.
this is
By the time we do get money or authority, it may have already frozen.
Plus, this isn't town property, nor
Exactly.
remotely close to us being able to take it. I mean, it was paid up until the spring, correct?
Yeah, we're 3 years from a foreclosure if we chose to. I would not recommend foreclosing on a property that is $1 million cleanup
I mean,
potential.
if you get into the DEP records on it, it is never going to be used for anything from this point forward. It's contaminated foundation, it's contaminated brick.
So the building has no value anyway. If they were to do something with it, they'd have to tear down the building.
The best thing I think we could do would be call this caseworker from the DEP who's been handling this and get an exact answer of whether or not, the moment our town goes in there, are we on the hook for any liability of this contaminated site?
Well, we gotta do it ASAP because it's getting colder out, and I see no point in letting the water freeze and all of a sudden, there's water all over the place, and we're gonna, and then we're gonna use manpower, and actually,
The event of freezing gives us the authority to shut off the water,
true.
something we don't have right now.
Without saying that we caused any of the damage.
I know that, I understand that, but I still say, it slows in the barn door after the horse is gone.
So this is a
Wasn't
unique
our horse.
situation. This is a unique situation because generally, we find out that a property has been abandoned because the sprinkler system freezes and we get the fire alarm, we go up there and we go, oh, look, the building is vacant. This was brought to our attention after they dropped the keys off and said, we're all done with it. It's all yours, see you later. In good conscience as fire chief, I'm not gonna order a sprinkler system shut down
Okay.
inside a vacant warehouse. Whether it's brick mortar, there's wood structures inside there, something happens in there, some kids break in or whatever, there's a fire alarm activation and there's a fire, if we respond up there for an automatic fire alarm and the front door has been jimmied open, there's smoke coming out of that building, we're going in.
Right,
And I'm not gonna give the order to shut that sprinkler system down if my guys might end up inside that building doing a search. So
okay,
what would generally happen, the safest thing in my mind, and, is the system's gonna freeze. And when the system freezes, it's gonna trip the fire alarm, and we're gonna go up there, and we're gonna shut the sprinkler system down, and then have 1-800 board up come in and secure the building to arson standards, I would assume.
National Arson Prevention.
And the building's gonna sit there for 100 years. Because nobody's gonna touch it.
is there any way, you're saying the people who have ties to that building want nothing to do with it?
There is no one that ties to
Well,
it.
there's no,
The sole stockholder died 12 years ago.
and does he have any, it's got a chain of command, it's gotta go down,
The heirs want nothing to do with it. According to the attorney that used to represent him, nobody wanted anything to do with
well,
the
maybe we
property.
have to tell him, you have to pay this.
You can't do that. They have no obligation.
Dan, it's like you're on your house mortgage, and let's say that you're the only one that's on your house mortgage, and something happens at your house and you had passed away. Nobody else in your family is responsible for your house. We can't
The
go
heirs?
to Michael and say, you owe the town $20,000.
Mike says here.
There's actually, in cases like this, that when the state's involved, DEP or the feds get involved, they'll actually go back to the companies that previously insured this site and make them responsible. Now, that's far greater action than this town probably can afford to take. But that's why I would say at this point,
Well, certainly
We
we
may
can
be best-
communicate with DEP
call this,
and
because
see how they,
she's been on the records for it for quite some
Okay.
time now, so she's.
Yeah, I'd go along with Randy. It makes more sense to talk to somebody that might be able to know what can happen with this building than to wait for it to freeze.
we'll call tomorrow.
Is there anything in there as far as, these guys going in there hazardous to them? Should they even be entering this building?
It literally was 4,000 pages scanned and uploaded, but there is a report that I could pass out to you. It's an analytical report, but an evaluation was never done on it, and it's a report where they're finding, like I said, fire chief knows this, the chlorinated solvents are about as.
And that was in 2000?
I've read the recent
18
reports
years.
on this stuff.
Right.
It doesn't appear that there's anything like airborne, and there was ground contamination of private wells on Terry Road and I think it's Robin Road or Kerry up there. There was some issues in basements with air quality, but all that stuff has been mitigated to a safe level. It's still on the ground up there, but it's to a safe level. And I know that when Mr. Rosen was building the condos at Paradise Gardens, DEP was up there wanting to do test wells because they feel that the contamination has gone that far down Bedford Street from that property.
One question I have is, if we do nothing and it freezes and then in the spring it thaws out and it starts gushing, by the time you get there and shut it off and all this water's gushing, is that going to create more of a toxic scenario where this water is becoming contaminated with what's around it and then spreading to the houses behind it?
No more than the
No more
inches
than
of rain
rainfall.
we've
That's one
had.
there, yeah.
You don't think it would be?
No,
It's gonna come out
the
the front door, go
interior,
down the
the
street.
interior is clean, there's nothing gonna leach from water going onto the floor. That'll come out the doors and there's no issue, but the building doesn't appear to be an issue on the inside of it. Most of it was probably, just got through the concrete or whatever the old floor was, and then got into the soil outside. There are test wells all on the perimeter of the building. So this is going to be a problem, this building, but, until something eventually happens to it. But I have a responsibility to report. I have a responsibility to conduct a survey and come up with a recommendation.
I have another question. Frank, just for kicks. What do you think it would cost to clean that entire site? $500,000?
It was $1 million back in
Oh, all right,
2000.
really?
It's probably a lot more now.
In 2000, that they had set aside 400, and this is what the Decor Images owner defaulted on, was, they set aside 480,000 that he was making $2,000 a month payments towards, and defaulted on those.
Do you think the state could get involved and clean that up and then state take it over? Just like when they cleaned up,
Obviously, we'll go to DEP, which
Right.
is the state, but there are so many of these sites that the state's not gonna take an active role unless it's immediate threat to the people around it. And they've already determined that, I got notices 2 years ago for wells on Robin Road that are used to monitor when there's contamination to determine, one, how significant it is, and two, whether it's traveling. There's this site is large, it's like 6 acres.
because if that site was cleaned, it's pretty good, it's,
Be
you
as
know,
good as the one on
Right.
South Ave.
right. So, I don't know, I guess our next step is to get a hold of the state and see what they can do.
Yep. I will do that tomorrow.
After you get the budget done.
And everything else.
Prioritize, mister.
Wow.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you.
thanks for that research, Randy.
There we go.
You need a motion on that?
No, I think it's the understanding of the board that Frank is going to contact the DEP. He'll let us know what happened.
Well, that's new rates.
And by
just
that-
not to add any more, just, my thing is liability on the town.
Right,
Yeah.
I agree. We do not need any more.
Right.
We have this, is this something?
Yeah, this is the new business, act on the recommendation to update increase inspectional services fee. Bob, you still up?
Okay, so we
You're the
haven't
liaison.
increased permit fees since 2010.
Yeah.
The electrical permit fees haven't been increased substantially at all, and they're far under what other communities are getting. Typical single-family home for electrical is, right now, current fees are $140. Most towns are up over 400. So we adjusted that so that it's more equal. The building permit fees went from $10 per thousand to $12 per thousand with your approval, and commercial fees went from 12 to 15. Basically, we went from $40 minimum to $50 minimum. We did check with other communities, and this is in line with what they're getting. It's fairly simple. We kept it down the best we could, but I think we need this to run the department effectively.
Yeah.
Anyone have any questions?
Did you do any sort of analysis or just sort of a guess what increase in revenues this would create next year being an equal year?
Not yet, but we can do that once I know what types of permits we've issued. The
We
not
have-
to exceeds are generally, if you look at wiring not to exceed, went from 140 to 160, that's not the difference. The difference is $20 because you're comparing one to the other. But there are some significant increases here in the base permits. The assumptions here are that the fee results are from where they're calculated to be a permit fee. are based on a $200,000 expenditure. So for example, the base permit for residential construction would increase $400. The flat fees themselves would increase $1010. The commercial, based on $200,000, would increase $300. The other fees are kind of incidental, and they're not going to make a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The largest fees are going to be on the residential and commercial construction.
What do you guys do for, when you're basing it each $1,000 a part thereof? Are you giving them a basic square foot cost to run by, or?
We did go up on that. The basic square foot cost prior to this increase
Yeah.
was based on $110 a square foot. We've increased that to $120.
Which is still.
And
pretty
I
generous.
did it on my house based on the square footage, and it's reasonable. It's definitely, my house is costing a little more than that, but if you take a typical raised ranch, that's about what it should cost.
Someone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we go to the setting of the fees that recommended by,
Approve the new column.
approve the new cost that has been brought forward from our facility manager.
Second.
Is there any discussion, further discussion, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Bob, have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
Bob.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Can you say that now? Can you say that now?
Next thing on the agenda is to act to declare DPW equipment 1955, Curtis compressor, and 1991 Camel sewer jet trailer as surplus materials and authorize the CPO to dispose of said surplus materials by public auction.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions or any discussion?
Yeah, what's the going value of a 1955 Curtis compressor?
Guess we'll find out. By the way, the last time we approved the sale of surplus was water meters. How much did we get for that?
Yeah.
We got about $4,600.
$4,600, and we sold them by the barrel.
Wow.
Was it copper?
Brass?
Brass, is it?
Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Act on the request of Town Clerk Don Varley to appoint election officers for 2019 in accordance with the list provided and to set the annual town election hours from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Discuss participation in the Community Preservation Act. Frank? Lisa?
So you want to present that?
Is this really the best year for,
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I respectfully request that we table this discussion until our next meeting. The presentation is not completely done yet.
Okay?
So you need a motion to table?
Sure.
Motion to table?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Set the January meeting schedule. Any suggestions?
eighth
Well-
and the 22nd?
What?
8th and the 22nd?
January?
15th and the 29th?
Yeah, I like that. I mean, go bang, bang with the,
Say again?
We-
On the 8th, yeah.
When was
You
that?
booked that.
When was that made?
2 months ago. Yeah.
Was it?
Good. Eighth-
Okay, so-
8th and the 22nd?
8 and 22 it is.
22? Okay. Thanks, Laurie. Old business, Board of Selectmen handbook. Okay, we've had this for a little while. Do people have any suggestions that are substantive? I spoke to Lisa before the meeting. There's some grammatical things, some punctuation things. I'll just get to her afterwards. I can't help myself. I'm an English teacher, so if I see something, I take care of that. It's nothing. Substantially, I just had a couple of questions. Under Selectmen roles and responsibilities, If you look about halfway down the paragraph, it says, "Selectmen may conduct performance reviews of the town administrator and assistant town administrator on an annual basis unless otherwise determined by the chairman." On page 6, when it talks about our responsibilities for the employees that we have, which are more than those two people, it says, if I can find it, the Board of Selectmen shall conduct annual performance evaluations of all employees that are appointed by the board. The board will determine when the performance evaluations will be conducted. The evaluations will be conducted either upon the hire date anniversary of the employee or at the end or beginning of the fiscal year. So it seems as if those two paragraphs kind of conflict with each other a little bit. One says we may conduct them and the other says we shall. It would be my feeling that we shall.
We should.
To do performance evaluations of the people that we employ. So I'm not,
Do we address that in the personnel handbook, though, where it should also be addressed then? Like, how did we?
I have to check.
I mean, obviously, we don't want to make sure we're saying anything in conflict of what we have in there, but I absolutely agree that it should be done.
Right.
I think this board should do the town administrator and assistant town administrator.
Yeah.
But I think they should be responsible for
for
everyone
doing-
else.
everyone else.
for the other people.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to do. Well, there's a lot of cards we sign.
Yeah.
There's a lot of peeps.
That's right.
I agree.
Oh, okay. Lisa, you probably take some of these comments back with you and come back with another version.
Yes.
Yeah, just take a look at those two things and come up with one statement that covers it.
And do you mind taking a look at the personnel plan just to see how it jives with what we said in there?
Yeah.
Or maybe we didn't, I don't know what we
Okay.
said at this point.
The second thing I didn't understand. On the liaison roles, if a selectman has an issue or concern with a liaison assignment, the selectman shall bring forth to the chair issues or concerns of that selectman's ability to serve as a liaison to a particular board or committee. I'm not sure that of that selectman's ability to serve as a liaison to a particular board or committee is necessary to have in there. Just bring the issues or concerns to the chair, I would think would be enough. Does that make sense?
Well, there may be conflict of interest, like,
Well, yeah, but you don't have to be specific about
Right.
every single thing that might be an issue or a
right,
concern.
yeah. It's like when my son was a call firefighter, I didn't do the fire department
Yeah.
when I
Yeah,
was here.
Yeah,
trying to-
it's
I'm
just, if there's a concern,
Generalize
I'm
it.
just
Bring
trying
it to
to, I'm
the
just trying to
board.
simplify it.
yeah.
Yeah,
The phrase, the selectman's ability to serve as liaison, can be taken in a pejorative way, and I didn't want
Yeah.
to see anything in there like that.
Right.
And then on page 6, when individuals, members make a request of the administrator town administrator, I guess, for information of concern to the whole board, the administrator will report back to the whole board, period, unless otherwise specified by the individual member who will provide reasoning for shielding the information from the other members.
no, right.
Who does,
It's all very cloak and dagger.
Where that
well,
goes.
who does the individual member provide the reasoning to?
The rest of the
Yeah,
board,
I think that,
I-
I think we stop at the whole board, period.
Okay. Now, those are the only,
These were
Unless
extracted
it's a
from other
secret, how's
books,
that?
yeah, I
but
figured that. Those are the only substantive things I have. The rest is like putting in commas and changing a word. Like, instead of selectmen, it should be selectmen when it's a singular
Yeah.
verb, that kind of junk.
You wanna go to select
That grammar junk. So
Select-
that's all I have.
select
And I'll give you these sheets, and you can do what you want to do with it.
the Brookline solution,
What did I do?
select women.
and I've already voiced my concern.
Okay, does anyone else want to deal with this this.
You have mine, right, what, the comment I made, yeah.
And I can talk to Lisa, but there's just I mean, I'm sure we've all seen the MMA.
Yeah.
And there's just a good part in there about the selectmen's responsibility during budgeting.
Oh, that isn't in here?
Yep.
Okay.
You want to
So-
take it direct from there?
Yeah, I mean, you can take it direct from here, but I think something that we
Yeah.
have some responsibility over the budget should be in there.
Okay. Anybody else?
Actually, yeah, Article 2 is
So if
out.
anyone else, if we had some concerns, give them to Lisa and we'll get a revision back. Okay. Update on the textile recycling program?
Good evening, folks. Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I felt it necessary, our textile recycling program kicked off on December 3rd.
This is a pink bag program?
The pink bags, yes, the pink bags. And the reason I stand here tonight is just to provide you a little update and to address a lot of concerns that have been shared with me and brought to my attention regarding this program. I want to address that, or actually announce that during our first week, we collected, Simply Recycling collected 697 pounds of textiles
More information
for the town,
We don't have
which
enough
is a good kickoff, I believe. I want to
I'll bring it up. but
stress
maybe we're gonna
that
get some information.
some folks felt that we didn't communicate enough with them regarding this program. And that's why it had such a slow kickoff. We receive 1 penny per pound collected by Simply Recycling. So we got a check from Simply Recycling for $6.97. Simply Recycling is, let me take a step back. Unfortunately, a lot of comments were made, were shared with me regarding people's feelings about this program, that it's something that we put in place that's a mandatory program that forces people to not donate to the charities that they've continued to support. That is a rumor that I would like to stress that is not true at all. This is a program that's offered to the town residents who are customers of Waste Management. They are not expected to recycle things in the pink bags that they would normally donate and support their charities. These pink bags are mainly for items that they would not donate to the charities. They'd throw them away. We're hoping they throw them in these pink bags and put them out with their trash.
Leisure suits and belt
Yeah,
bottoms?
broken belts and, slippers, shoes with the soles, sneakers with the soles, pillows, sheets, blankets, things that you would normally not donate to charities, but you don't know what else to do with them, put them in the pink bags. Like I said, some of the comments that were shared with me, I was a little disappointed to hear. Someone actually made the comment that they got their postcard in their pink bags and they threw it right in the trash where it belonged. I was a little disappointed to see that type of comment. We're just trying to, the ultimate goal of this is to get the weight out of our trash. Textiles are very heavy. We are charged by the pound, by the tonnage, by landfills. And if we get our textiles out of our trash, that lightens up our load, so to speak. And as we're charged by the tonnage, hopefully if we reduce that, the fees may not go down, but they won't go up either. And that's basically the ultimate goal. There's no other underlying purpose to this. It's definitely not mandated, but we do highly recommend it. If people have any questions, comments, concerns, please call our office. Just to talk with us if you're confused or anything. If you didn't get your pink bags, we have phone numbers you can call. The company is very receptive. They'll send you out the pink bags. They follow the trucks around, the waste management trucks, and they'll pick up your bags. If you have 2 or 3 that are left out or 1, they will tie a new bag onto your recycle bin so they don't blow around. And that's it. That's the goal of this program. It is a private company. So they are for profit. They take some of the recyclables that are gently used and they sell them to consignment shops, which then in turn around and sell those. Recyclables that are not consignment level or sold, they will sell in the international market. And then those items that are not, you really can't do anything with, they convert them to raw materials. So all the textiles are put to use in some way, and they don't end up in our landfills, and that's the ultimate goal of this.
What else do you expect for a penny a pound?
Actually, I was kind of impressed the way it worked out the first week, you know? I
Yep.
mean, we put out a couple of pink bags and got a couple of pink bags to replace them. It seemed like a very smooth operation.
It is, and I think we tried to get it out the best we can. Again, we left brochures in all the town buildings. It was on our website. We've talked about it a couple of times at the selectmen meeting. And I think word of mouth, too, with folks that are having success with the program. I mean, I put out 2 pink bags every week. I get rid of old little carpets, area rugs, belts. I must have hundreds of baseball belts and baseball socks and baseball hats and shirts through the years, just in corners, what I do with these, and shoes just piling up. All of that goes in these pink bags, old blankets, ripped towels. They all go in the pink bags, and they take them away, and I get 2 new bags, and I suddenly have room in my closets.
Someday
Yeah.
you'll be there,
Yeah.
caught up.
Also, I think it's a lot easier for the residents, because a lot of people will put, like if somebody comes, sends you a postcard, and they'll say, I'll be in your neighborhood, you have something put out front for a donation. You can still do that. But for the people who throw stuff in a bag and then throw them in their car and drive down to a local box it's somewhere in a parking lot, and they throw in the walk, they don't have to do that. They can just put it out with their trash. It's that simple. And it's convenient, that's what it is.
Right.
And we make, a whole penny a pound.
And again, it's not mandatory.
No,
So folks,
absolutely not.
we don't want to take away anything from the folks who donate and support our local charities. Please continue to do that, but these are the items that you would not donate.
Right.
And we're offering another way to disposing of those items other than the trash.
And 2 other points, too, is that we're not the only community doing this.
That's right, we're partnered
it's
with
not-
Abington,
we're not unique.
Middleborough, Taunton, yes.
Right, so there's other communities that are on board doing the same thing, they think it's a good idea.
Right.
And also, too, some people may think that when they go drop off something at a bin somewhere, some of those are for-profit organizations. So they may think that they're giving to a charity, but they are not.
Right, correct.
So those are 2 points I think need to be said.
People have to be waste management facilities, who aren't waste management, they partner.
No, they have to be waste management customers. Yeah, because the Simply Recycling, the trucks, the vans follow the waste management patterns.
Thanks, Lisa. We need to go into executive session.
One more thing, Carl,
Where is it?
if I may. I received a call today
Yes.
from the facilities director at Whitman Hanson regarding the Whitman Middle School. An inspection was done, and there is a
Boiler breach.
breach of the boiler that the Fire Inspection Services has noted and has directed be repaired. The cost is going to be something approaching $12,000. It's urgent, they're gonna have to make the repair. Ernie had indicated to me that he would be sending some information over on it. But I just want the board to be aware, because in those situations, the school will make the necessary repairs, but it will come to us as
Right.
our responsibility.
Okay, thank you. Anything else happened today that we need to know about?
Nothing that can't go on the next agenda.
Need to go into executive session in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, excuse me, Section 21A, Exception 2, to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel.
So moved?
Second, yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we're in executive session. We'll come back into open session only to adjourn.